Grow Great is a city government leadership podcast with Lisa Norris and me, Randy Cantrell. Each week we share insights, experiences, and wisdom to help you and your leadership grow great. Our website is growgreat.com. The scene in Meet the Fockers. So his dad, De Niro, and his character, you know, the girl's parents, they're going to meet his parents, and his parents, Dustin Hoffman's his dad. He's got this whole wall of all the celebrations, right, for this. And De Niro goes up and he grabs a ribbon, and it's a 9th place ribbon. And he looks over at man, I'm just awful today.
Gaylord.
Yeah, looks at Gaylord and he goes, 9th place, huh? You know, it's like, yeah, you know, so.
Celebrating mediocrity.
Yeah,
Yes.
celebrating mediocrity. Today, the subject is, the subject is celebration, but more particularly, it's about appreciation. So this was your suggestion. I thought it was a great idea.
Yep.
Maybe it's not done enough. It could be 9th place ribbons. It could be overdone. So
That's right.
kick us off.
All right. So this all was prompted. I love if you guys don't on LinkedIn, I follow Leader First is what I believe it's called. They have great, just inspirational quotes. And I pass those on my LinkedIn account to all listeners that are following me there or Randy there. And this particular quote I came across today, and I said, this would be great, Randy. As a leader, make it your priority to appreciate your team, appreciate their commitment to helping the organization navigate these changing times, value their contributions, and most importantly, thank them for excellent service. And, you know, you realize in so many times that appreciation should be done. We all know that. But we sometimes forget it in the busyness of every day trying to survive, right? Of trying to get through the day and get done what you need to get done and the timing it needs to get done. But it's so important to take the minutes and moments to recognize a celebration that's needed. And it's also, Randy, you and I talked about before we kicked this off, about how ingenuine it can be if you do it too much on every little thing, or because you want to check a box off and you're looking, I've got 9 people, I need to thank everybody today, right?
Yeah.
That's not what it looks like. It should be very genuine. So as I thought about that quote, it's, you know, and we talked about the Meet the Parents, they were celebrating everything and forever, right? And
Right.
Greg is just like, Mom, what are you doing? Just, can you please take it down, you know?
Right.
And so, and it was an embarrassment, but of course the mother was extremely proud, and she was genuinely proud of him,
Mm-hmm.
and the dad. Right. So anyway, you know, I think it's so critical that we just have genuine appreciation for the involvement of our team and what they're accomplishing. We've talked about, Randy, you know, me getting the land. And for those of you that don't know, Dawn and I have been trying to look for land for years to hunt and fish on that's our own instead of leasing. And we have now found that in Oklahoma, just closed on it Wednesday of this week. And so we are building our forever retirement home for down the road. And for now, for hunting and fishing, and to go up there on weekends and enjoy that, right, while it's there. And my staff in that moment, they heard me say, I got it. And they came and they hugged me and they celebrated, and just everybody, because they know it's something that I've been wanting unrelated to work, but as a life, you know, they kept saying hashtag relationship goals. You got what you wanted, you know, and it was our anniversary this month. So lots of things to celebrate, but that's just a genuine expression of, kind of excited for me. So not necessarily gratitude for anything I'd done, but it is an example of how you share in the moment, and you need to recognize those moments for your team, especially in moments where they've done something well, they did something big, they accomplished their first of something, and just to celebrate the little wins. I think that's important. Randy, how did you do it in your in your experiences?
Yeah, well, first off, I agree with you. And, one thought that I had when I read it, and I've probably been a little bit preoccupied just in some other conversations and with other clients about just time and being present. There was a terrific and interesting book. It's old now, called Time Wars by a guy named Jeremy Rifkin. And he talked about the analog versus the digital age. And so, I've got just the old fashioned hands on a watch. And he's like, the digital clock is just present, 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 present. And you kind of lose concept where you look at a watch like this and you have some concept. So we're recording a little bit after 3 p.m., but I can see, I've got some concept. Well, there was a 2 o'clock and there was a 1 o'clock and there's going to be a 4 o'clock and whatnot. I bring that up because part of it for me is celebration is in the moment. You're celebrating a past accomplishment, an achievement, you getting the land, but it's also fueling the future because, well, that's the whole reason you got the land.
Right.
You haven't hunted on it yet. Maybe you did fish on it. I don't know. Did you?
We did. We
Yeah,
did. I made her prove it up. Yes.
Yeah, I kind of
that
thought
she
you
had actually had fish.
Yeah, I kind of thought you fished on it, but it's a celebration in this moment in time, and it's also, I think, another reason why you just can't do it once and be done and go, well, got that knocked off the to-do list. So we don't ever, because your staff, you and your team are always accomplishing new things. There's always new goals. Got a business partner in a peer group setting, a guy named Leo Bottari. If you're interested, it's LeoBottary.com. And Leo is a world expert when it comes to particularly CEO peer groups where CEOs get together. And he tells a story about his daughters. And they were hiking, and it was just a long, laborious trail in Colorado. It was up a mountain. And he's setting these they're just like, oh, we don't want to keep going. And it's like, yeah, but the view up there is going to be terrific. They got up there, and of course they were glad that they had, but it was just setting these small goals. And I think about that too. I think about the kind of the objectives and the goals that we set for our staff. And if they get there, like him with his daughters, yeah, but they're like, man, the view looks pretty good here. And he goes, yeah, but it's better up there. So we're continuing to press and move forward and get better. We're celebrating a past accomplishment. We're doing all that in the present. So I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but it gives us some concept of our progress. And are we going in the right direction? And when we don't do that, I think many of us are left wondering, well, are we going in the right direction?
Well, not only that, think about when you've gotten a genuine felt appreciation for something you've done, right? For the listeners, and how much it not only is a feeling of accomplishment and a sense of satisfaction that you have purpose and value, right? And it's recognized. But secondly, it fuels you. I don't know about you, Randy, when I've gotten that or when I've given it genuinely to a team member, it fuels them. They want to do more for you. It's like teaching your children and they have an accomplishment when they learn to take that first step and you applaud them and celebrate it. Guess what they immediately do when they fall? They get back up because they want more, right? It's this energy that feeds a soul when you genuinely celebrate an accomplishment. And I think that's what we have to focus on because it's so easily forgotten or you miss moments because we are so busy. But take time, man, don't miss the moments with your team because every accomplishment you recognize, it will infuse a spark in them to want to do even more for you. However, that must go with great leadership. If you're doing it in the moment and they feel like it's a checkbox, it's not going to achieve anything except that they're going to go, okay, Yeah, I saw that he celebrated 9 people today. You
Here we go
know,
again.
here we go again. So I just know from my staff, part of the celebration is knowing your people. We've talked about that before, knowing what is valued to them, not recognizing something so small or minute that it's not important, but not missing a moment that is, and may still be small, but it's a big moment, right?
Yep.
So there's little things that we just try to celebrate. I've got staff learning. I got a staff member just started it last week, and one that started 2 weeks ago. And I know for them, I checked in on them. It was like day 3, and I said, "How we doing?" And they're like, "I actually answered the phone today, and I answered it correctly." And I was like, "Way to go. Success," and it was something so small.
Yeah.
But they smiled and they're like, "Yeah, I'm learning, I'm reading." I mean, they were just so proud to tell me what they were doing. Right. And so it's just what a little thing. I didn't have to give them anything. I didn't have to buy them anything. It was just an acknowledgement that you're valued and your contributions and your learning are important to me.
Well, I think that's the other big key too, especially if you're a leader and you're an authority, you've got position and authority. It's just, you're paying attention. Somebody's paying attention to what I'm doing.
That's right.
They're noticing. I worked when I was a young guy for a guy that was a tyrant, and I had seen this phrase somewhere, and I wrote it and I stuck it on his door. I didn't tell anybody. This was a skunk work. I mean, I knew I could have gotten in trouble. And anyway, and it just said, "The beatings will continue until the morale improves," because that was the way he managed.
That is horrible.
Well, he deserved it.
Yeah.
So at some point, fast forward, and Rhonda or somebody bought me a T-shirt. I've still got it in the closet. I've never worn it. It said, "The beatings will continue till the morale improves." And for some leaders, that's their idea of leading. I know a CEO years ago who informed me that it was his job to catch people doing something wrong so he could correct it. And I'm like, well, so who's catching them doing anything right? Who's reinforcing anything right? And at the time I had a new puppy, and I'd had new puppies before, and I challenged him and I said, do you believe that I could take a healthy puppy and housebreak that puppy within 3 days? And I don't need a rolled up newspaper? And he said, yeah, you probably could. I said, oh no, I can. I have done it. I'm doing it. I'm doing
With
it.
confidence.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now. I said, so if you can do that with a puppy, what do you think you could do with a human?
But how much better do we learn through positive reinforcement than we ever do through negative? Now, there are times we do need to correct behavior.
That's right.
We need to change the course. And there are times when an employee has choice. And if they're a sour grape, you may not turn that sour grape into anything, right?
That's right.
So I think there's a reality too, and we'll talk about that in another episode about culture and, how one bad apple, as they say, can spoil the bunch. And I absolutely believe that's true. If you do not address it, it will spoil it. So I think it's so important to reinforce the good behavior that you're seeing, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to want to work even harder for you. They want, not because they're trying to win favor, but good people are going to work hard because they want to make you proud and they want to make themselves proud as a leader. A good leader, we talked about followers, right? A good leader, the more they see you recognizing their value to the organization and that you express that by their actions and what they're doing, they're not going to want to do less of it. They're going to do more of it to contribute even more and to be a more integral player to the team.
Well, it's interesting that through the pandemic and even now with the hybrid work or the remote work and the stereotypical management view of, a butt in a seat equals productivity. And that if we're not watching them, if we're not paying really close attention, they're not going to do the work. so we've got to ride them. But at the same time, if you're willing to pay attention to that, but you may not be willing to pay attention when they do something outstanding, when they go the second mile, when they go above and beyond, or even when they do. I've heard CEOs and bosses talk about, well, that's what I'm paying them for. I'm like, yeah, I get it, but we are all working for more than just a dollar.
Especially now, Randy,
Yeah.
when people are leaving, when people are not staying, they're making the great reprioritization we've talked about.
Yep.
They are making choices based on what's important to them in life.
That's
and
right.
if you're not meeting that as an employer, you're not going to keep them. So we have to up our game and make sure that our employees know how much they are valued, how much they make a difference in our business and our bottom line. And I not bottom line by money. I'm talking about bottom line by service, by impact, by influence, those things to our community, because great workers are for the greater good in a city. We all have a part to make our city the best, right? It doesn't matter if you're the financial clerk in accounting, or if you're the city manager and the executive. Every person's impact makes a difference to the effectiveness of that city and the impact they can make overall. So we all have an important part to play.
Well, your land, you and Don buying this piece of property in Oklahoma, kind of to me is a great metaphor for it. And your team celebrating that had nothing to do with work, but it had everything to do with work.
That's right.
I mean, it had everything to do with connectivity. It had everything to do with the way that your team views one another and the way they view you. We did an episode about, the humanity of leadership, and it directly speaks to that, but it also speaks to something that, a concept that I'm rather fond of. If you want to see more parades, then you need to celebrate the parade instead of raining on the parade. These people that don't celebrate, these people that just for whatever reason they refuse to recognize achievement, man, they never see a parade.
Right.
They never see a parade and then gripe about it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the rest of us who are happy for the success of other people, instead of being overpowered by envy or covetousness or jealousy, there's just, I view it the way I view optimism. There's just not a downside. There is not a downside to appropriate, and I would emphasize that word, but you've alluded to it. Can we overdo it? Yeah. Not ninth place ribbons don't work. I know everybody gets a trophy and all that. My generation, it didn't happen that way. And it wasn't that we were trying to single out losers. It was just, to what are you aspiring? As we're hitting the record button, the Little League World Series is going on. There still is a team from Texas that's right. That's involved.
That's right.
These kids are not playing for ninth place. And I heard a coach huddle his team together. They were getting beaten badly, and he said, listen, no matter what, we get to play again. We get to play another game. Do you guys realize that we are one of the 3 best teams in the country? We are one of the 6 best teams in the world. And yet they were being beaten in the moment. And I thought, yeah, now there's a guy.
Something.
Yeah, there's a guy who's leading these kids in the right direction to recognize what they had done, even though they were being defeated. So I don't know, maybe that's worth a bit of thinking about and a bit of conversation, that the celebrations don't have to be because hooray, hooray, we're the best, we're number one.
And the other thing I would mention about that, there is a time that's appropriate for a group celebration and a group recognition. And there's a time when it needs to be a private individual, and they don't have to be equal. I see so many leaders that say, you know what, it was really these 2 people, but I really need to recognize all 5 because the other 3 will get really their feelings hurt.
Right.
And I just am not a believer in that approach.
No,
I think because it actually devalues the appreciation, and it creates a sense of entitlement that all of us deserve it.
that's right.
Well, if you weren't the ones involved in the actual critical pieces of that, I believe in recognition, but I believe in it being appropriate and to the people who did that work and lifting them up. And then I also believe I've had people say, well, that's a horrible worker. I don't care if they were involved. I don't want to involve them.
Mm-hmm.
That's not right either. Everybody can have a shining moment, and maybe you can turn somebody around and maybe you can't, but recognize them appropriately. Don't do it because I need to, because
Right.
I haven't recognized them in the last 9 months, but the other 3 have gotten recognized, all bad reasons. Be genuine, recognize appropriateness of what they have done and accomplished, and make it personal where you can. You can recognize with food. We've had pizza parties. I've had individual recognition. I've just gotten somebody a little something, their favorite Starbucks drink, and just brought it in and set it on their desk and said, hey, great job on your first payroll. We have little cards in HR we keep of your favorite candy, your favorite drink from Starbucks, your favorite gift card, your favorite place to shop, just all these simple little things. Right. And we keep those for all of staff. So they just have to pull that card, because I said, it's not just about me recognizing. I don't see everything. I'm gone 80% of the day in meetings, but tell me about them, not to brag, but to say, hey, they did a really good job. And then for us as leaders and you as peers, to recognize them with something personal, saying, thanks for helping me yesterday. I know you were busy, but you took time out of your day. Just those little things, gosh, it goes a long way. And lastly, I would, for our listeners, be sure you're looking at yourself and looking at your organization. Are you taking time to recognize? And is it a culture, either in your team, in your work group, in your department, or in the city, depending on what your role is? It doesn't have to come from the top. It can be within your work unit. It can be within your department. But make a difference and make a change, because if we don't recognize one another, value will be lost. That's one thing I can assure you. They will not know that they're making a difference. And that is what our business is at the city. Every city, our job is to make a difference in the lives of others, whether it's our community, whether it's our peer, whether it's a mentor or mentee relationship. Great people are going to make a difference in the lives of others somehow.
Before we wind down, let me do a quick word play. So here are the words: appreciation, recognition, celebration. Do you make any distinction between any of those three? Appreciation, recognition, celebration. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I do. And here's why. I think they can all be related and happen simultaneously, and they can be in different moments where you appreciate somebody, but you aren't necessarily celebrating it. That is a personal, a thank you, right?
Yeah.
Celebrating it is actually to me, an outward expression of something. You have given them something, you are celebrating it publicly or privately. It's more of a gesture of kindness in lieu of you appreciating them, but it's a bigger, to me, it's a little bit bigger. Recognition in the middle, I think kind of combines both of those. Recognition to me is those two pieces combined, where then your like our GP and Me program, we give them days off for something, and it has to be for cause. That's, to me, recognition, right? You're giving them a gift card.
Right.
Celebration can just be oh my gosh, guys, gather around. Look what Be created. And we just kind of have a group celebration. That's for me. How about you?
No, I agree. I was just curious, because those are three words that kind of get lumped in as synonyms.
Synonyms. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like you, I see them a little bit different. A leader in the audience or an emerging leader. I don't do it, or I haven't done it. I want to do it. What advice do you have?
You need to do it. I think you need to make it. If you're not currently doing it, or you don't think it's important, I'd ask you to reassess. If you don't want to, if you don't think what we're saying makes sense to you, I would encourage you to do a survey of, do we do this well? Rate it however you want to ask. How is it valued to you? Do we have enough recognition? Is it too much, just right, or too little? I mean, just something simple that will get you to cue in. And we ask that when we do departmental surveys. Is it too much, just enough, or too little? Do you feel valued? Do you feel appreciated for the job you do? Right? When you ask the questions, that may tell you your answer if you don't yet yourself believe it's necessary.
Well, you haven't
Beyond
looked in the mirror.
necessary.
You haven't looked in the mirror if you don't believe it's necessary, because I did a little project 3 or 4 years ago that I called Craving Encouragement, that was sparked largely because I realized I don't care how high up the chain you are, I don't care how low on the chain you are, everybody, and I mean everybody. Steve Dye, who's the city manager of the city of Grand Prairie, Steve Dye craves encouragement. Lisa craves encouragement. I crave encouragement. Everybody, if you're breathing, you are craving encouragement. Now, the encouragement can come in different forms, and what may float somebody's boat may not float my boat. But
right.
We are all looking for somebody to pay attention. Now, some of us are attention hogs, we want all the spotlight, but many of us it can be just something incredibly simple. And quite frankly, some of those tend to be, at least for me in my life, some of the most powerful, because you're, head down, you're grinding, you're doing case in point. So we want to show off. We all want to show off. So here's the boss coming to a new employee who's actually going to take some pride that they've answered the phone correctly on day 3. Well, that tells you something about Lisa's leadership, because there's an awful lot of employees that is not what they would say, because that just sounds so ridiculous to some. And yet for you, it was a moment of encouragement. And maybe that's a 4th term that is worth inserting here, because that really is the point of it all.
Yeah.
I think number 1 is the right thing to do.
Right.
But we're just encouraging. What are we encouraging? We are encouraging performance and behavior that is conducive to the kind of work that we want to do, the high performance cultures that we all hope to create. And you get more of what you reward. You just do. You get more of what you recognize, of what you call attention to, of what you notice. And noticing, for me, that's the whole thing. You just want to be noticed. Nobody wants to go through life invisible.
That's right. And even at our level, there are moments, we've talked about on the shows how much change we've had here at the city. Our whole leadership team at the top turned over within, 18 months or maybe even less, and getting to know. But even as an executive, I value so much when Cheryl, my boss, will come down and she's like, man, you knocked that presentation out of the park. And she may have coached me ahead of time of, hey, remember the audience, this group needs it, really boil it down to the basics or whatever, and just gave me some guidance. Mm-hmm. And I may have known it, I may not have known it. But the fact that she reinforced I did a good job, it doesn't make me turn around and go, man, well, I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah, it really makes you want to slack off the next time, doesn't it?
Yeah, I need to go home early today.
Right. Well, I'm done. Right.
It makes me want to work so much harder to please her and to do a good job, not out of expecting anything different, not out of expecting favor, not, okay, if I do more, I'm going to get something in return.
Yeah.
But good people want to do it because it makes you proud, because they did a good job. It makes them proud. They feel like there is purpose and value, and I am serving somebody else well. That is what it's all about. Doing a good job and recognizing it. And the last thing I'll add, Randy, and I started in earlier, is that, again, when you were talking and I'm talking, it all comes back to knowing your people, knowing when it should be personal, when it should be public, when it should be individual, and when it should be a group. Who to invite, who to applaud, and making sure it is genuine. If it's not those things, it will not succeed. If it's ingenuous, if you're just trying to recognize everybody to check off the list that I've done recognition this month, don't do it, because you're going to destroy more than you're going to add.
Okay, I've got to ask a question because I hear this come up, particularly in city government. So, okay, well, let's see, they got it last time, and you're trying to work it around. You're trying to manipulate the system so that you can kind of you can recognize everybody over the course. How do you feel about that?
Okay, so this happens. This does happen, just like you said. And my thinking on this is good idea. Okay. In other words, the idea and the premise itself of trying to spread the wealth for recognition is a good one. But doing it just because and trying to recognize them when it's not important, it wasn't a successful, something that they accomplished that is outside the norm, that can be destructive as much as it can be beneficial. So I'd use caution. I definitely think it's good that you're watchful and trying to make sure you're looking for the things in everybody that you can applaud. But don't do it if you get to if you've got 12 people and you get to number 10 and they haven't done anything, you skip over 10.
Yeah,
okay?
don't game the system.
No. So I do apply. I always tell, because this comes up, they're like, Lisa, if I don't recognize so-and-so, and I said, no, the fact that you've just had to say that sentence is a no-go. Don't do it. So, but I said, but I do applaud the fact that you're trying to be aware that you are being aware of your team and who has or has not received any, and trying to be thoughtful, should they have gotten something.
Mm-hmm.
I do applaud that effort. I definitely, though, wouldn't do it just because they're number 10 in the 12 slots and you're trying to recognize one a month.
Well, it's a surefire way to diminish the effort and the recognition of the true high performers. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And it's not the non-performers, it's your high performers. Like you said, you're going to demoralize them, that they're like, okay, that's ridiculous. They got a soda for leaving on time today.
Right.
Or something, right. or oh, they got in 2 minutes early.
Yeah.
I'm going to give them something because they came in, you don't want to do that, because trust me, it's seen.
Yep. All right.
Unfortunately, people talk.
Before we end, do you have any story that comes to your mind, whether it involves you or not, preferably one that would involve you, and maybe it was recognition that you delivered, maybe it was recognition you got. Is there any story that comes to mind, something that made a big impact on you, some act of encouragement that was, who cares, work or personal? Anything come to mind?
Put me on the spot, Randy.
I know.
It's weird. It's the harder moments when I've dealt with something really negative, mm-hmm. and tried to have grace and poise through those moments. That's honestly what I remember the most, because my real instinct is just to say what's on my mind. I've got Don and I, but I have to be always politically poised. And
that's right.
In my role, I have to always be the calm head. So I remember there was a really difficult conversation and really difficult individual I'd been working with for probably a year and a half. And it was always a negative. It was always judgmental, always coming in with anything that I would try to roll out. There was immediate a paragraph of why this is dumb. Can I remove them from a list? Can they not get my email? So, it's always kind of that kind of thing.
Unsubscribe from your email.
How do I unsubscribe from the Norris email? But right. It was just that kind of moment where it was just difficult.
Sure.
And I finally just, I talked to my boss and I said, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to win them over. I'm trying to do the best I can to continue to serve them. And at the end of the day, I remember I had to show her, because these interchanges were consistent. And I finally said, hey, this is how I've responded. I just want you to see it, because it's gonna rise up. And my boss at the time said, you know what? That is the best response I have seen. You were kind. You were reassuring. You were, in light of all the targeted comments, you had poise and grace. And what better example is that than I want to see in my leaders? And that alone, I was just like, okay, I can be nice another day. One more day.
Yeah.
But it's those little moments that seems so small in the scheme of things. But I just wanted to say what's on my mind, and it would have been me. It could, I shouldn't say it would be, because I'm just not like that. I won't let it out of my mouth. I just think it in my head sometimes.
Yeah.
But the fact it was just difficult every time. I just wanted to, why can't I do like that individual and just spit out negativity? But it was reassured that I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you because you are being the leader we want you to be. Right. And
made the fight a whole lot easier, I'll bet.
It did. And and they also said, just respond professionally, or sometimes you just may not need to respond at all. Yeah. Just let it lay.
Right.
And that was good advice too. So those are, I'm sure there's bigger moments, but it's those things that are just hard that I get tired of the beat down, on moments.
Well, but I like it because it seems so innocuous, and yet it's so not.
And I remember it. Look, I'm of all the things you've asked me, that's what stood out.
Yeah. No, and I'm glad you picked that. I kind of had an intuition that it would probably not be something horrifically profound.
No.
But that's the point. I think for me, that's the point of encouragement and appreciation. Put whatever word you want to all of this. You just don't know. A word fitly spoken here or there can absolutely change the trajectory for somebody's career, if not over the long haul, certainly in a moment in time. And I think it's powerful.
Just the encouragement, like you said, Randy, it's important. And again, that reinforces its moments. It's hard for me to think of things myself. I don't need a lot of stroking. Some of your people, guys, are going to need a lot of stroking. That's just how they're wired. You have to know that. Some are going to need very little. Some are going to want it personal and not in front of a group. And you need to know that. So of anything I would say today, know your people, know what they value when you are recognizing, because it can backfire if you don't. If you try to do it public and they hate the public eye, that can be actually embarrassing for some. And I've dealt with that before too. And I had to learn that. I had to learn that through trial and error, honestly. But it's just important. Know your people, just genuinely appreciate them, recognize them, thank them for a job well done, and for service that they're providing, because that is our business in city government.
And we'll end by showing our appreciation for you clicking play
and sharing.
Time and attention.
Commenting. We love the comments we get in whatever form they're coming.
Yeah. And
thank you for just making it a success, and hopefully we're making a difference for you and your teams.
Yeah. Listen, it's just one day at a time. It's one leader at a time, and everybody, including us, need encouragement. You've provided it. Check out the website, growgreat.com. There's a contact form over there. Drop us an email. I don't know. Let us know some act of recognition that was powerful in your life. And if you're a leader, something that you've done that has just achieved wild success for you, we'd be happy to share it with your permission, of course, or we'll keep you anonymous, which we would prefer not to do. We'd like to celebrate you.
That's right.
All right. You got the last word, and I'm out.
No, just appreciate your people. There's really nothing else to say. Make sure it's genuine. Do a good job. Tell them they're doing a good job. And, maybe we've made somebody's day brighter because of it.
Thanks for watching and listening to Grow Great, a city government leadership podcast. For Lisa Norris, I'm Randy Cantrell. Be well, do good, grow great. The website is growgreat.com.